I wanted to introduce Patrea. So Patrea is one of our top agents, and so she specializes in luxury, commercial, residential, just she's kind of superwoman, does all the things.
Try. It's
So
not good to be a jack
she,
of all trades, but try
but you
to
see,
get my hand in a little
she didn't
everything.
get a, yeah. And so she's also an ALC member. We've talked a lot about that this week. And so we just wanted to invite her to share her wealth of knowledge with us regarding open houses. So take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. How many do we have today? Do we have about 5, 6?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks all of you for joining. I started, just get a little bit of background about me. Everybody starts at 0. So, at the very beginning, or in my case, I thought I was at 0. My ex-husband and I he was a broker in Las Vegas of just his own business. And I ran more the transaction coordinating, marketing. Anytime he had a listing, I was all about making sure the house got ready and talk the clients into doing the improvements. But my ex-husband would never do an open house. He would tell me they don't work. And I had no background or didn't even think of Googling it, right? Googling open houses, do they work? And so he had given me, he had said they don't work. But I came to Keller Williams, moving to Utah. I'd grown up here, but I hadn't been here in 4 years and moved to an area where I didn't have any contacts. And so I was just really starting from 0. And Keller Williams, I actually had Claire Gunn teach me my Ignite open house. And so she taught me that course. And I said, well, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to go start hosting open houses. And I built a business. Part of my business was built off of open houses. So just an example, 2 weeks ago, I held an open house and I got 2 unrepresented buyers. So, and one of them is kind of in a holding. They're trying to decide who they want to work with, but they also wanted to offer on the property I had listed. And the other buyer were going out on Saturday. So they do work, and so it is practice, and the practice is holding open houses. But the way to get practice is to hold open houses. So I'm going off of, I really try not to reinvent the wheel when it comes to Keller Williams. The systems have been vetted. They're constantly being improved. I don't do everything on the list, but it's not because it isn't important. It's just because I don't do it, but I should. But I'm going to go through what I do and how I plan to improve my open houses, because it is actually a discussion that I do with my business coach of what's one thing I can add to improve one of my income streams, which is open houses. So I had Terry send me the open houses playbook. And this is the playbook I received 7 years ago, but it has been updated. So Keller Williams doesn't let things be old and obsolete. An example would be right on page 2, according to the 2021 Home Buyers and Sellers Generational Sellers Report, authorized by the National Association of Realtors, 53% of all home buyers source information about a property at an open house. So open houses definitely are valuable. But there is a process to holding open houses. There are properties that you're going to sit in an open house and nothing's going to happen. So there are things you can do leading up to that open house and following that open house that can still generate you business, even if you don't get any traffic. So, and so we just went over a few of those myths. I'm on this next page with myths. That buyers who come to an open house are not ready to buy. Under contract on that townhouse, all 3 offers came from the open house. So, and buyers agents appreciate open houses because that's a way they can funnel their clients to the open house. And I'm going to go over a little bit of etiquette that I do, my own personal compass as far as how I handle buyers that come in through an open house. And then and everybody's going to have a little bit different approach as you go to more than one open house class. even being an agent that's been with Keller Williams for 7 years, I still want to take and plan to take a lot of even Ignite classes. I've gone through Ignite a total of 3 times, at least taken each class 3 times, and if not more in some areas, because as soon as I hear an agent that I don't know well or I respect and want to learn more about how they do their business, I want to go to their class. And that's even because it's all about the basics. When you start making your business complicated, the reset is to go back to the basics. And so buyers, now during COVID, a lot of the buyers did have representation because they learned really quickly they weren't going to get an offer in unless they were ready to hustle. So there was a time period where buyers were coming in unrepresented. We're going to see more buyers come in unrepresented because they don't understand the impact of the NAR rulings and what the lawsuit is about. So and that was one of my buyers, one of the buyers that came in said, well, I can be unrepresented if you want because of the lawsuit. And I said, well, you're going to get represented because of the relationship I have with my seller, either by me or by an agent of your choice. But the price is going to be the same for you. And so, but you are going to have more opportunities to convert buyers at an open house because of the NAR ruling and because of the media not educating the public correctly. So I think it's a total win when it comes to open houses. And open houses, it says they only work if you do them on the weekend. That's not true. I hold open houses in the evenings as well to pick up that evening traffic, especially if it's coming before a holiday or right after a holiday. So like if you have a house coming on or just went on the weekend before Memorial Weekend, and you wanted to run another one, run it on a Wednesday night, because people who missed it on the weekend or those who went out of town on the weekend, hold it on a Tuesday night right after the weekend. Even if you've got 1 or 2 offers, you can attract more offers if agents can get in the door. And again, open houses are a way to market your property and show that you're making effort for your seller. So if anything, an open house shows that you are putting forth effort to your buyer. So that's what I mean, to your seller, excuse me. So if you are the listing agent, or another agent is going to hold an open house, it has twofold. It's one or threefold. One, it shows the seller that you're putting forth effort, that they can see with their own eyes that you're putting forth effort to sell their home. 2, it does attract a buyer for that house. And then 3, it also attracts a buy and even a listing for you by somebody walking in the door. And so then it now comes to, how can I maximize this open house? And I'll let you know what I do. So, and we're going on to open house. I'm not gonna go through all 3 pages, but there are some misunderstandings on open house. And so you can look through those, but you do want the neighbors to come through. Your goal, whether you're the listing agent holding the open house or whether you are or just holding the open house on behalf of a listing agent, you have the opportunity to prospect that neighborhood and attract your own buyer and your own listing from that neighborhood. And as being a part of Keller Williams, you're going to learn about a lot of different ways of maximizing an open house. And what I'm going to touch on it a little later, which I haven't been implementing, but that I just had a discussion with my assistant in TC, was about doing what's called a golden letter. And I know about it, I just haven't ever implemented it. Yet I've been to enough trainings about it that I should be implementing that element. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And let's see. So let's go to the page where it just says open houses, where you want to pick your property. It is important to pick an open house in an area where it's going to be beneficial. And as you choose one, or somebody says, I need an open house done, I'm looking for an open house, definitely pull that open house up, see what else is for sale in the market, see if you feel like you think it's priced high or low, or if you think it's at a price point that's going to attract a lot of buyers. If you need help with that, you've got your productivity coaches that can help with that to say, hey, you know, this might be a way to make that open house valuable. And so you can take a look at that, but plan ahead. You know, if you're wanting, I mean, people will be reaching out and putting on KW agents only on Facebook. Hey, I need somebody to do the open house this weekend. But if you can plan ahead and start looking at what's coming in the pipeline, or does anybody have a listing coming up that I can plan ahead for an open house so that you can maximize that open house to your benefit. But it doesn't hurt to do a pop-up open house. So the townhouse that I listed and did an open house, I had to list it on a Friday night last minute because it's a long story. But anyway, it's a house that I've had an active no-show for almost a year. But I popped it up. I called it a pop-up open house because I couldn't do everything I wanted. But because of where it was located, it literally, not even my normal advertising went out. And this was just 2 weeks ago, and I had 10 buyers through the house. So, you know, with the right location and the right price, you're going to get that activity that you're looking for. And so that neighborhood in particular is one that if I were able to, which is the goal, get another listing from that townhouse community, golden. Everybody wants to live there. So it's just set. It's in Mid Valley in Murray, and it is near the walking distance to a train station, very sought after community. And so definitely capitalizing on that listing. So here we have this list. You want to pick that rice house. You want to get familiar. And if you want, depending on your mod, farm around your area and be more of a listing agent for a farm and work with buyers right in your area or that area, then you can start to look and get familiar with the areas that you might want to sell in. Secondly, you can do, you know, new to market properties. So that's farming out and asking for that low inventory in neighborhoods, which we have a lot of low inventory still. So that's pretty safe. And then price point. Now, luxury is actually selling really well right now. So over $1 million. I'm even having trouble finding what I like for my clients in the 900 ranges and the 800. So there are some very good price points, but definitely look at that mid-range pricing and see what's available there. I'm going to talk about how you can reach out with your marketing materials and get a little more familiar, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. I'm going to share with you how to do it on a budget, and then I'll tell you how you level up on a budget, and then you level up. And so you may not have your database yet, but you can still invite your database in Command. You can learn how to email out to your database. Even if your database, I had an agent that I recruited to Keller Williams, and she says to me, I've got 50 homes in my database. I have 50 contacts in my database. That's all I've got. And I was like, what a win. 50 contacts in your database. And I was really impressed. She says, but I have 7 more to put in. And when she tells me she had 50 contacts, that means she had all their information. She was only supposed to report to me if she had all their information: Facebook connection, birthday, address, email. And so really great if she can send out an email invite or a text to that database of 50. She's showing her database that she's actively working in the industry. And so that's a really important touch, is to show your database what you're doing, or posting on Facebook that you're holding an open house. So there's a lot of multifaceted of what an open house can do for you. So inviting neighbors, Command has a feature to send out postcards. Also, our preferred title company in-house will also, I think her name is Liz. She will also help you know which house. If you feel like you can't knock all the doors in the neighborhood and invite them all, she can help you know who has lived in those houses longer than 5 years and identify those. So you can meet with Liz. Sorry, thank you. You can meet with Liz and she can help you. So as you look for ways, so if I have a week leading up to an open house, I would want to first identify the property. So we're done with that. And then flyers right now, there is nothing wrong with just printing out. Now, KW, I mean, the Home Hub has an open house template. So does, or a just listed open house template that you can modify. And you can have one that goes in Canva. You can also, so does KW Command. It has a feature to actually create an open house flyer. And then you can also just print out the open house flyer from the MLS. So that's like the inexpensive. Don't overdo the wheel, just create a flyer and have it say open house. And when you're having it, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be on shiny paper. It can just be printed right in the office color. You can make a little invite and you can go door to door with that. Be careful with tape because people get really unhappy with tape. So it either needs to be slipped in their door, but you want to make the knock. You want to make the knock. You want to make the interaction. You want to say, I'm having an open house. I thought you might want to see what great things the seller's done with the house and take a look at it. I know in my neighborhood, I'm really interested. If the house goes on the market, I want to see what it looks like. So we'd like to invite you. And who do you know that I should reach out to or give you extra flyers for that you can invite to this open house that might want to live in your neighborhood? And this is a way you can make contact and invite people to the open house. Then having a registration sheet, and those are easy to get. So don't worry. You're literally looking for name, phone number, email. And if they say they have an agent, I actually ask them to write it down, because then we find out if they really have an agent. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute, about that. We're going to expand on that. How do you convert at these open houses? But we're wanting to get that registration information because you're just going to put them into your database. Even if someone says that they have an agent, you can still choose to touch them and touch them with market information. You can still friend them on Facebook. There are things that you can do where they start to see how you impact the market as an agent and how you take care of your clients and educate. And then scorecards. I love the scorecards. I kind of got out of practice with that. And after preparing for this class, I'm going to be using it again. This is from Claire Gunn. She does a little mini clipboards and she has a little checklist sheet where even the kids can walk around the house and rate the house. And what you're asking, that you're just engaging them in the home. You're engaging them in the home. And I used to use it really religiously. And then the last couple of years and how fast houses were flying off the market, I stopped doing that. And I'm going to start doing that. And that's a component of Claire Gunn. And I can send out what I use and get that to Terry so that you guys can use it. But I got it from Claire. So that's a great part of Keller Williams, is the share culture. And so I get it from Claire. So I love that because it allows you to engage more with the people as you're sending this clipboard and you're handing it to them and you're saying, hey, while you're here, we sure would love your opinion. So if you don't mind, will you take one of these clipboards? And I have about 8 of them, and they're little ones. And this is a half sheet of paper. And the kids love it that can read. And they go around and rate the house for you and bring it back. And it allows you to have 2 points of conversation, one when they come in and one when they bring it back, and get some more interaction with what they're doing. And then talking about signs. So I am a huge proponent of a lot of signs. I learned that from Claire Gunn, because there are lots of pop-ins that you'll get for an open house if you have enough signs. Now, I had those, they call them the H sign frames. I struggled with those at first because they're really hard to get in the ground. It's hard to put them in a place. It's hard to make them directional. It all depends on what you want to do. I'm not big with balloons. Either is Claire, I can't remember if it's Claire or Lee Stern. Lee Stern, she's another agent you'll likely hear from our Salt Lake City office at some point. She does hers with a pinwheel where it just spins with the wind because we have a lot of wind. I have chosen to do none of that. That's just been me. Just the more signs, people will see them. Balloons get caught up. The balloons and I fight in the car. And not every one of my A-frame signs will hold a spinning wheel. So there's definitely some complications there. So for me, that is a good investment, because you can borrow signs from the office, but it's not very many signs and they're not available. Is investing in A-frames, and anybody can reach out to me and I can send you a picture of what those look like. They're just a metal, they fold and they open, and I buy them from the Salt Lake Board of Realtors. And I would recommend starting with 10, but if you can only start with 4, start with 4. But I put out about 15 to 20 signs on an open house. So keeping in mind, I'm wanting to get to my location an hour and a half before the open house starts, if not 2 hours, because I'm putting out the signs. And what I do personally is I do have a sign. I run my open houses from 11 to 1. I rarely change the time, but I just spoke with my assistant about coming up with a magnetic version where I can change with magnets. But I do have a sign that I put out in the yard that has the time. So I start from there and then I work my signs as I start close, and then I work my signs backwards. So I put that sign in so that I'm not going really far out with my directional signs, then I'm running out of time. And then I don't have the signs leading up to the open house. So I put a sign out that says when the open house is going to be, so that people can drive by and come back, and then I work my signs out. I started out really cheap. I spent my money on my A-frames, and I have still got those same A-frames. And then the Salt Lake Board of Realtors sells I don't know, might be, I'll look it up and send it to Terry. It's just says open house, and it's cheap plastic, and it's a package of, I think, a dozen, and they're really cheap. And I put white duct tape on them, and I hole punched them, and I zip tied them on. And I used those for years. And sometimes one would break, but they were so cheap, I could just go back and get some more. And they just said open house. So, and I just made sure I had enough signs that I didn't have to worry about having a directional sign straightforward. People got the picture because they could see the next one in front of it. And so signs are really important because you really will pick up a lot of traffic that way. And then as we're leading, and so as I'm backing up in time, as I'm leading up to that open house, I want to make sure I've got my signs. Preparation for an open house is key, so you're not stressed. So making sure you have a box that has your clipboards, has your sign-in sheets, has your pens. People do treats. I do not do treats and never have. Actually, I can't say never. I started out doing them, and people just left me wrappers and different things. My open houses have been successful with a no water, no treat, no cookies. That's just how I roll. I don't do them. I'm a no frills. You're coming to see the house. I'm there to tell you about the house. And so that's what I do. I also bring an extra bin with booties, just in case the listing agent doesn't have those there. And I get them off of Amazon, and they're inexpensive. But if you want to leave that off, you can leave that off and just make sure that they remove their shoes. So as far as open houses go, you want to have preparation, you want to have your signs, and you want to use an aerial image. And if I'm having somebody else do the open house, I'm actually printing out where they should put their signs, because I'm familiar with the house. If you're placing your signs yourself, I recommend you start Google Earthing or go and drive to that property if it's not too far and determine where you want to place your signs. Claire Gunn will tell you that. Know where your signs are going to go. Don't try to figure it out in the hour and a half before the open house. And even if people are getting that open house off of, Zillow or Utah Realtors or wherever they might be getting it, and they're still going to map it. You really make the experience better if if they're able to find the signs and come into the open house. So come into the open house. And I like to be there ready and early. Now, I do something a little bit different. That is not just for the open house, but people at my open house love it. And I every once in a while see something a little bit like it. I don't consider it labor intensive, but somebody else might. And I'll have to send a PDF of an example because my screens are all closed. but I label all the features in the home. So it's a self-guided tour. And so I've got a way I fold them. Everybody could do theirs different. I do make them for each house, and I cut them and I slice them and I have them ready to go. And I place those, and I arrive early enough that I put those on just prior to the open house. And I label the house so that it is a self-guided tour. Now, you're going to want to do that on your listing, but not, if you're doing somebody else's open house, that's a lot of effort and I wouldn't do it. But if it's your own listing, I label that because people walk through that house and you've got different types of personalities. So some people are going to read your description and some people are not. But my tags force people to read those descriptions. I mean, read the description, because they'll literally walk to the sliding glass door and they'll say, large backyard, fruit trees. Oh, look, there's a cherry tree. Oh, this is close to an elementary school. We need to drive by there and let's go check it out. And sometimes I'm joking around. It depends on the level of the house. So I'm much more professional when it's a luxury home, and I'll group things where we're and a more mid price or entry level price. I'll kind of joke around with people and say smoking hot furnace, especially if it's new. I'll mark if a refrigerator is staying or going. And if the washer dryer is going, sorry to have to leave you, but your set will look great here. And people walk through the property and they actually educate themselves, and sometimes out loud, on the features of the home. If that's not the case, as you greet people coming in, making sure they have the flyer and making sure that you verbally say 3 things that are great about the house, 3 great features. Hey, by the way, don't miss, or I wanted to point out that don't forget this house has a brand new roof and a new furnace and water heater. So you just embed those features into the home, and it allows you to have conversation with them. And as I move through my process, then I'll go back to how I convert. And I see we have about 10 minutes left. So how I convert. So as we do that, so we're ready to go. So the things you're looking for are hopefully, and then as far as listing, making sure that agent has the open house listed. For me on Saturdays, I typically do 11 to 1, but when you've got a house where it's going to have a lot of kids at the open house, and this is a similar sheet, this is a feedback sheet, and you can make yours. I like mine half size, like what Claire Gunn does. I like mine to be on 5x7 sheets, and I have the little clipboards. What's really important is to make sure you're prepared and you have your marketing. So for me, I put my listings on KSL as well. I actually get quite a few people that tell me that they heard about it. They saw it on KSL. So I put it on, so it's on Utah Realtors. So you could ask an agent if you're doing a listing for them, if they've got it listed on KSL and if they wouldn't mind. And then our wonderful, okay, Terry, why is my mind blank?
Who?
He's in charge of our websites. Hello.
Barry?
Does our websites. Not Barry. No, does our
Sawyer.
agency. Sawyer. Hello. Sawyer's going to kill me. So Sawyer did a lot of open houses for me. So he liked where my locations were. He liked how I staged my houses. He likes how I priced them. And so he did open houses for me. He is somebody who can also teach you how to advertise your open house on Facebook and get people to register. He taught me that. So he would say, hey, I've got 11 people registered to come to this open house. So he has captured their data and he knows they're coming. And if he doesn't, he can reach out to them. So Sawyer would create a little flyer. He would knock the doors before the open house, invite people to come, ask them if they know of anybody who might need an invite that he can send a text to or get their phone number or give an extra flyer for, and follow up and see if they were able to come through the open house. Then he would hold the open house, and then he would also do that Facebook registering where he registered people in the open house. And until he taught me how to do it, I was constantly, and that he will say there is a fee, and he just asked me how much I'd like to spend. But as a listing agent, if you're listing for me, I mean, you're doing an open house for me, I'll pay the fee. and I'll put it out there. So you can ask your listing agent, hey, I'm willing to do some paid Facebook advertising for the open house. I'll place it. Sawyer's taught me how to do it. How much are you willing to pay for that and put that out there? And I always paid for it and said, absolutely. So that's another avenue that you can show your value as how you run open houses. And if I have an agent that runs the open house, they absolutely get all the leads off that open house. That's pretty customary, don't you think, Terry?
Yeah, for sure. That's really the whole benefit of you doing somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'll give you an example. Sarah Hyatt did an open house for me. I had a listing I had to get on in 5 days. It looked amazing. I had already planned a ski trip on Saturday. I knew it was going to be a phenomenal open house, but I've set boundaries in my life where I've got to not work. And she did open house. She got the buyer. She put in the strongest offer because she's the best. She's trained by KW. It wasn't because I loved working with her, but she really did put in the best offer. It was an unrepresented buyer. They got under contract and she got a buyer right for that house. So if anybody tells you they don't work, it's just, they're either doing it wrong or choosing the wrong houses, or the house is priced wrong. So there's something that's happening that's wrong. So, so now we've got the advertising. We've now got people coming. Even if nobody comes to your open house, you can do live reel on Facebook. You can post stories on Instagram and Facebook showing what you're doing, talking about the features of the home. You can take some still pictures and have those for you as something you can post later. There's lots of things that you can do to benefit from that open house. You can walk the neighborhood and say, I'm heading to do an open house. I'm putting out some signs. You're getting traction to show activity. Show activity, show that you're busy, show that you're working in the industry. So even if nobody came to the open house, and then you can go back and knock that neighborhood after and say, we've got this, and continue to follow up with the neighborhood and see if there's anybody that you spoke to before and say, hey, I didn't see you at the open house. We weren't able to come over. And you're asking, when, how long have you lived here? Do you intend on staying here longer? Do you intend on relocating? And collecting that information, asking to add them to your database to just keep them in touch on what's going in the neighborhood and the market. And they're perfect for the neighborhood nurture in command. So when you say, hey, I have a feature that if I add you to my system, it'll automatically let you know when any other houses come up on the market in your neighborhood. And then another opportunity you can say, and when it comes tax time, I'm happy to, if you're concerned that your house has been valued too high on your tax bill, I'm happy to see if there's a way we can bring that number down. So building that relationship. And it is that repeat business. Then the final thing that I haven't ever
Patrea,
implemented. Yeah.
Real quick. Reed has a question.
Oh, sorry. Hand raised.
Okay.
Hi, Reed.
You're all right. When you put those signs out, do you need to get permission from the people where you put the signs, or have you ever had a problem with that?
Only time I've ever had a problem, not a problem. The only time I've asked is if I have to set it on their grass. I go and knock on the door and I ask them if I can place an open house sign, and I tell them how long it's going to be there.
Okay.
Other than that, and that's very rare. We don't have much longer, and I will touch on that golden letter. But before I do that, does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. So really there's just making your own open house bin that you're ready to roll with. And that's your sign-in sheet. That's if you want to do the clipboard that people could evaluate the house as they walk through, that's a great one. And then deciding where and how you're going to get your signs. So for me, which I didn't ask back when I started, and I should have asked, anybody who does my open houses, I tell them, do you have your own signs? Are you using office signs, or would you like to use mine? So, and I have had agents every once in a while borrow my signs, even though it says my name on it and directionals. They're like, it doesn't matter once they come in the door. So, I need to get them there. But decide how you're going to do your signs for your open house. Decide how you're going to make that happen. And if you need a little help with that, of course, Terry and Lori will help, but I'm also willing to help as well on how you're going to come up with your signs. So then you're ready to roll on that. And now it comes down to scripting when people come in the door. So you're just building rapport. Most people will say they have an agent. Claire Gunn is very bold in saying, have you signed a buyer broker agreement with that agent? Have you retained them officially? That's another term she uses. And they may say, no, it's just a friend of mine. And you don't need to say anything more. You can just continue to talk to them and say, well, what are you looking for? Are you planning on moving pretty soon? Do you have another property to sell? It's all about the questions. Questions. And as you can see, I am an extrovert and I'm a talker. So learning to ask the questions was hard for me, to teach them how to let them speak. What are you looking for? What do you like about the house? Would you like me to reach out to you? Or I don't even ask them that. I say, the reason why you're on the list is to I have you sign in is because I want the seller to actually know that real people came through the house. And I also want to follow up. I'm not going to stalk you, but I am going to follow up and let you know if the house has gone under contract and if you have any interest. Additionally, I'm going to reach out to you from time to time with any valuable information that I find relevant, and you can let me know whether you're interested in receiving it or not. And that's what I do to engage. And you're really just building rapport, building a relationship, getting to know them on a personal, let them be heard. And
Patrea, can I ask you a question?
Trust. Yes.
So just because this conversation is so important, how many questions would you say you're asking in that conversation? Because I heard you say, like, are you buying for you? I'd like to follow up. Like, you are saying quite a bit, but if you had to push yourself or guess, how many times are you asking a question?
I would probably say 5 questions, but they're not all about real estate. So what brought you here today? What brought you here today? So, what brought you, what do you have going on? What brought you here today? That usually gets them talking to where you can then lead into another question. Well, have you bought before? Would this be your first time buying a home? And if they say, oh, we're just looking, we live in the neighborhood. Well, how long have you lived in the neighborhood? What do you like about this community? And is there anything you don't like about the community? So anything that creates that conversation with them, that's what you're after, helping them be heard. And then it's asking, well, if they say we love the neighborhood and we think we're going to stay for a really long time, it would be, are you surprised? How long ago did you buy? Oh, 3 years ago. Are you surprised at the price? What do you think of the price? Do you think it's high? Do you think it's right? Were you aware that your property is worth this? Or I even asked them about their unit. Do you have the same floor plan? Because if you're in a townhome community and if you're in a single family home community, why did you choose this community? So you're really just wanting them to be heard. And why did you choose this community? And that could be whether they came in, what brought you to the open house? What did you like about this listing? And they might say, oh, I just saw the open house signs. Would you be buying, are you shopping for yourself? And they'll say, oh no, my brother's moving to town and I'm just really excited about them being here and I wanted to show it. Well, do you think it meets their criteria? Would you mind if and they'll say, no, it's not quite right. We're looking for something else. Well, you know what? If you leave me your email, because you left me your email, I can actually shoot you over some listings that meet that criteria. Would you mind if I did that? And they always say no, they don't mind. They'd love to have them. So, you're asking those questions to lead them up. And I'll actually type some of those up. I didn't even think about that, Terry. I'll type up kind of my flow of questions because I'm about building rapport, making a friend.
Yeah.
Making a friend.
So I wanted
it's
to
trial and error. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wanted to address a couple of the comments in the chat.
Thank you.
So Somebody asked, so Vicky said she's done an open house and people did not sign the sign-in sheet or put an invalid phone number or email. What would you say about that?
Well, when they come in to sign, I actually tell them why they're signing. I actually say, you're signing on here so that I can, one, prove that real people came through the door, to show that I'm showing trust, right? To show that I trust to my seller, that real people came through the door. I literally use the words, I am not going to stalk you. I'm just collecting this information for my seller and just to communicate with you that to let you know an update on the property. Whether it's going under contract, and just to make sure you're interested. And when they write in and I talk to them and I'm visiting with them, hey, that's really interesting. Where do you live again? And I'll make a note by their name so that I'm showing that I'm building a rapport. Okay, you guys live down the street. So I don't just leave it sitting there. I have it by me and I say, before you can walk through the home, I need you to do this. And then I say, and if they say, oh, I've got an agent. Oh, great, no problem. Put that down and you give me your agent's name and phone number and I'll reach out to them directly on your behalf. And, but you're still going to get the bogus names and phone numbers. You're still going to get them. And it's just a matter of frequency, just holding more open houses. But when I tell them, it's like, I'm not going to be spamming you. I'm not selling your information. And I actually say that I'm not selling your information. I'm not spamming you. I said, I want to stay in touch with you. So I'm going to tag you to this open house so I know where we met. But I'm very clear that they're not going to be blasted from me or their information isn't going to be sold.
Okay. And then another question. So do you ever have anybody blatantly refuse to sign the sign-in sheet? And what do you do with that?
Then they can't walk through the house. It's showing authority and it's showing that that's what you've been hired to do. This home has been opened up for them as a courtesy. And if they're coming in without an agent, they just won't be able to come through the house. And thinking of that, I have a prep sheet for my sellers and I'll send that to you, Terry, if you don't already send one out. And if it's your listing, or even if it's somebody else's listing, say, hey, by the way, can you make sure that the seller does these things for me before I come in the house? And that includes making sure there's no valuables there. I had an agent walking a house about a month ago and she called me on the phone and said, there's money sitting out, probably $300 or $400. What do I do, agent? And I said, I'm going to have you stick it under the dresser and I'm going to call the agent and tell her that you moved the money under the dresser because you didn't know who was coming in behind you. And she wasn't really that thrilled. She was like, I can't believe they touched it. And I said, I can. And I told her to. So if you have an issue, give me a call or we'll get on the phone with our brokers. And, but just consider this a courtesy to help, to save your client. But people will take jewelry. People will take stuff out the door. I've lost some of my own decor because I stage my houses. So stuff will disappear. So make sure that they've got valuables no longer on the premises or locked in a safe, that they take them with them. And that's to protect you as well, because you're the one holding the open house. And I do not follow people through the house. That's not safe. I stay in the kitchen. I stay near a door. I keep the front door open, but in the wintertime, I don't. But just be aware that you need to read the room and read who's coming in the door. And that's another reason why you need to ask questions, is you need to inquire about who the people are coming in the door. And if they do receive use to sign, they can't come in the door. I'm sorry, it's a policy of my seller, and it's a policy that I set for my clients, that if you do not sign in, then you're not able to walk through the home.
Yeah. And I know we're just about out of time. I was just wondering if you could touch a little bit on your follow-up. So Vicky also said that she tries to call people back and they do not respond to her. So what do you do to handle the follow-up?
Well, it's definitely asking the questions to know who's going to want to be followed up with. So the follow-up is actually trying to set a relationship so that when you do reach out to them, they're kind of already thinking they can already trust you. So it's about doing the best you can to set a relationship at the open house so that they're not surprised when you reach out. And then you can also do a video. Hey, a video message where it says, hi, I think you remember me. I was at the open house. I just wanted to let you know that, and they may not respond, but I want to let you know that, this is what happened with the open house, or this might be due. We are expecting an offer. So if you know something, like trigger back to something you talked to them about. If you would like me to reach out to your agent, feel free to text me their number since we didn't get it at the open house, or if you would like, if you're interested in an offer. So you just have an engaging something, but you can also do it in a video that's sent to them, because most people will not answer your phone when you call. So it has to be in text, but a video is worth 1,000 touches. If you can take the time to send them a video, hey, send this video. And if they gave you a bogus number, that person might say you've got a wrong number, and you can say, well, great. And engage in test your waters on engaging in a cold prospecting text and see what happens. So, yeah. But it's just practice. The more open houses you do, and also ask if anybody's hosting an open house that's an experienced agent, and ask if you can shadow them. Ask if you can shadow them. And if someone does that for me, sometimes we think it's going to be a busier open house, we'll have one closer to the door. But if you're just sitting, you can sit right next to the person and hear them convert these leads. I'm one of those that I learned from listening from other people. And so you can sit and convert those leads.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you. I would just add one other thing on the follow-up. So we talk a lot about the Harvard study that says most people won't respond to you until you've reached out at least 7 to 10 times. Yeah. So don't give up on the follow-up.
12.
Yep.
And I have it as 12, but don't forget, it's not just those people that walked in the door. It's now communicating with everybody you already knocked a door on. So if you find out it goes under contract that weekend and you think it's a pretty great neighborhood, it would be a great way to go knock the doors again with a note that says under contract, but knock on the doors and let people know that it went under contract. Because just not opening up a neighborhood and starting to door knock, that's only one touch. This neighborhood now has already had 2 or 3 touches. So now you're on touch number 4 in that neighborhood. So when you're working to get to that 7 to 10 touches, you're on touch number 4 already. If you really like the neighborhood that you say, hey, I want a listing in here.
Awesome.
So that's really the benefit that you're getting from it. But I'm telling you, I didn't really have a relationship with anybody. So open houses were really important to me, and it just was frequency. But I handpicked my open houses.
I love that. Well, thank you. I know we
love
started
you all.
a few
Thank
minutes.
you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
so thanks for letting us go
late,
over.
So it's okay. Yeah. Does anybody have any last minute questions for her?
Somebody said
We
they
really
had an
appreciate your
agent, but
time.
there's one more question. They had an agent, but they refused to tell me. Okay. That's okay.
Oh.
That means they don't really have an agent. That
Yep.
doesn't mean they really have an agent. So that's okay. And you just treat it as great. Well, we love it. I just want you to work with anybody you want to work with. And, and tell me more about what you're looking for. That's really all you're after. Just engaging them. Is this something that works for you? So that's really, you're just building that relationship.
Yeah. I love the tell me more, or, those open-ended questions. We don't want to ask yes or no questions. It's too easy for them.
Yeah. If they said, I heard an agent, who are you working with? I'd love to reach out to them, and give them give them the feedback, or let them know what's happening regarding this property. And a lot of times they don't.
Yep.
And as we move with the buyer broker agreement, so many more people are going to have that buyer broker agreement. Here's the other thing. If a buyer comes in and they say they have an agent and they write it down, I need to do my obedience is to my seller. So I'm still prospecting, but I will build rapport with them, but I'm not, I'm not requiring a buyer's agent to call me ahead of time and tell me they've got somebody coming to the open house. Like if they spell it out and they list their agent and they put their phone number, I'm going to respect that relationship, because I hope that people will do that for me.
Yep.
But if they're kind of wishy-washy, or yeah, I have an agent, or they just put down the name and no phone number, like they're not putting forth any effort to list their agent, I do ask questions. How long have you been looking with your agent? How long have you been looking with your agent? I do ask those kind of questions. What other homes have you looked at? How long have you been looking? Is this in the right price point? Because I might be asking questions that their agent isn't asking. And at times I pick up clients because of that. Oh, my agent never did that for me.
Yep.
And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you
I want to
so
hear about some
much.
open house successes.
Yes.
And I'm super approachable. So we're all in the same club. So let me know if there's any way I can help.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good night, you guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
Patrea.